Conte was asked at his press conference today what he made of Mourinho saying that he doesn't act like a clown on the touchline, unlike some. And, well, people thought he was referring to Antonio Conte. This is what he said. I think that he has to see himself in the past. Maybe he was speaking about himself in the past. Sometimes I think there is, I don't know the name, senile dementia, when you're a bit, then he taps his head, when you forget what you do in the past. By the way, Chelsea came out afterwards and said he didn't mean senile dementia, he meant amnesia. Jose Mourinho responded just now to that quote by saying, I don't need the Chelsea manager to say I made mistakes in the past and will in the future. What I will say is I will never be banned for match fixing.
Oh, wow.
Oops. Happy New Year, Jose Mourinho. Gab, just put this into context for us.
Yeah, so what he's referring to, and by the way, Conte wasn't actually banned for match fixing. He was banned for failing to report an attempt at match fixing. Just to be clear and lawyerly on this, but it happened when he was at Siena in Serie B. They had already clinched promotion to Serie A, and one of his players allegedly says that, you know, he said, all right, well, we don't have much to play for here, so let's just take it easy on them, because this match will probably end up a draw. That's what he's accused of saying, and he never reported it to the authorities. But it's obvious that these two are getting under each other's skin, and the 2017-18 Premier League season is turning into the year of managers behaving badly and rather like kids.
Indeed. Mourinho take it too far?
Well, we'll find out. I mean, surely, I would imagine, I don't know what the legal ramifications are going to be from Antonio Conte's side and Chelsea's side on this kind of remark. I mean, surely if there's nothing to hide from the Italians' point of view, then he has to go after the Manchester United manager for those kind of insinuations, surely.
What I would say is that, in general, if you're a manager and now you're matched up with Jose Mourinho, the one thing that you don't want to do with him is go into the media with him, because in that arena, he is the best in the world. He manipulates the press conference. He manipulates the information better than anybody else. And when it comes to a back and forth through the media, nobody better than Jose Mourinho. So if I'm Antonio Conte, I leave it. I leave it alone because I have nothing to gain from this. Stevie?
If I'm a grown adult, I leave it. Never mind who it is or how good they are or how bad they are in the media. This is absolute child's play. And it's...
But who leaves it? Mourinho leaves it now, or Conte leaves it?
Both of them. What,
if somebody come in a press conference and accused you
well, that's
of
what I'm
match
saying.
fixing, what would you do?
No, I'm just telling you that both of them should keep their mouth shut.
So what?
So you try to say, oh, well, if he says that, then you can come back and say that.
But that horse is already bolted.
It doesn't matter. Listen, it makes absolutely no difference.
It does.
These two managers have got enough on the plate with what's going on at the football clubs, with what's going on in the football field.
Correct.
To start insulting each other, and regardless of who starts it, they should know better, and they should keep the trap shut and get on with the game.
You've now potentially gone beyond that, and are now calling into question professionalism and integrity. And I don't think if you are guilty, if you're innocent of any of these, you can stand by and say, I'm just going to let this go because somebody has allegedly or insinuated that I'm a match fixer.
I agree that Jose Mourinho has crossed the line. Yeah, he has crossed the line.
Potentially.
So Conte's not crossed the line?
No. Gab, go on, Gab.
No, I just want to say, look, hey, this match-fixing distinction, I just want to be clear here. He was banned for 8 months, subsequently reduced to 4 months, for failure to report match-fixing in his own team. I mean, look, we're going to get into sort of semantics here, and this is what happens when grown men behave like kids. Because, you know, the line from Chelsea was that, of course, well, he said senile dementia, but he meant amnesia, which, of course, is a bit different.
Welcome into Extra Time. Should we get straight to it?
Yeah.
Okay. Who does Stevie think should be Van Dijk's centre-back partner, Matip or Klammer?
I think it's pretty clear that it should be Matip.
Not Lovren?
No. Oh. Not at all. No, I think it's pretty straightforward. I think the two of them will make a good partnership. It's one game against Everton. They did lose a goal.
Yes.
I don't think either of them were at fault for it.
Who was at fault?
Lovren.
I don't think you could. I don't think you could pin one person down, but just as a group,
Bobby Madley.
they had enough players back,
Right.
and still didn't manage to stop the goal. So just
Collective responsibility.
collective responsibility.
Wow.
Thank you, Daniel.
Wow. Which sweeper keeper would you rather have on your team, Ter Stegen or Ederson?
Wow. At the moment, I would have Ederson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have Ederson.
Yep.
Ter Stegen has had a...
He's a great
yeah,
season,
he's had a great season so far for Barcelona, yeah.
There's not a wrong answer to this one. Either one's great, but I would take Ederson.
Who's the better
Are you
manager?
sniggering it? What's he sniggering for?
Your little cliche.
Hey,
There's no wrong answer here.
Sorry.
there's no wrong answer to this one, Daniel. But I would say Ederson.
I mean, that's Donaldson. You've got into Donaldson mode there.
Who's the better manager, Conte or Mourinho? Is there a wrong answer to this one?
Who's the better manager or the better coach?
Who is the better manager?
So you thought you'd point the word manager to say that you didn't say coach. You said manager, right?
I didn't say coach.
I know, I just told you that.
Where have we got the word coach from?
Well, you were making a point.
Why does that happen?
He was making a point, pointing to the word manager.
Well, because you said coach and
How
then
many times
I
did you
said
say
manager.
point in
Oh,
5 seconds?
shut up. Do you want to answer the question or not?
Yes.
Please.
We do.
Who's the better?
Come on, it's not...
Right now.
There's only one man. Although he's lost a bit of sparkle, it has to be Mourinho.
Yes, it has to be Mourinho.
Mourinho.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mourinho.
Mourinho. Hat-trick. There it is. ESPN.
Coach, is that coach or manager?
Daniel,
Can you point to that
there was
again?
no wrong answer to that question.
There is no wrong answer. They're both magnificent managers, but I will take Mourinho.
Who's the better coach? ESPN FC returns
That's a different
to screens,
question.
This weekend. We'll be talking FA Cup, return of La Liga, midnight Eastern on ESPN2. The transfer didn't go through on the last day of the window, and that was set at something like $40 million. Officially, he's moved today to Chelsea for $20 million.
Yeah, and in fact, none other than the mayor of Liverpool, whose name is Joe Anderson, I believe, he actually tweeted out from his official account that he's going to ask the Premier League to go and investigate this. I don't think there's necessarily a huge mystery here on the face of it, because he goes out of contract in June, and so he's that much closer. He could sign with Chelsea this week for the summer, and Everton would get nothing. So it's entirely normal that the fee would go down. The big question mark is, why did he pull out back in August? Because that's really what ended up costing Everton, the difference between £35 million and £20 million, and obviously it's in his interest to do so. But there's still some questions there, and people in Liverpool aren't too happy about that.
Well, there's no questions, Gab. I mean, if he player doesn't want to go in the summer, it's the player's prerogative not to do so. I mean, that's the bottom line.
But this is Merseyside we're talking about. It's not always clear cut. It's emotional. Ross Barkley obviously coming through the ranks at the club. He's seen as a local guy, one of their own. Yeah. And Everton are leaving a lot of money on the table.
But it's still down to the player what he does. On the other side of the coin, Antonio Conte seemed to be distancing himself from this a little bit today, saying, well, I don't bring the players in. It's a good signing for the future. I'll probably not be here anyway. We'll see how it goes. I'm not sure about this. I mean, the money's nothing for Chelsea, but I'm not sure about Ross Barkley, where he's going to fit in long term there.
It's that time of year. Why don't we rate some transfer rumors, shall we? Let's start at the top of the list, although this reeks to me of recency effect.
I don't know who came up with that, but there's absolutely no chance of me going to Chelsea.
Scores a couple goals. Alvaro Morata has a bad game. And I guess that's where some of these crazy rumors start. Let's start with another potential striker on move. Troy Deeney to Newcastle. This makes a little more sense. Rafa Benitez needs goals.
Yeah, this makes a ton of sense for me. A guy who's, you could say, is a proven goal scorer in the Premier League. Not had a great year. Something seems to have gone on with him and Silva for me. He's right out of the picture. But Newcastle, they need goals, and I think Troy Deeney would give them a good lift. Clearly, Rafa's not that keen on Gale. I don't think he's that keen on Mitrovic either. So for me, this would be a good idea and a good signing for Newcastle.
Newcastle needed, averaging less than a goal a game so far this season. All right, here's a big one. Antonio Conte to leave Chelsea, a club that he included in his list of clubs that he's coached where he's running an austerity program.
I find this strange that Conte, he did the same at Juventus.
So why do you find it
every
strange?
year? Well, why are you creating waves yourself? There are enough media and pundits and everything else to cause you problems. Why do you cause yourself problems? I've heard this so many times now that it's just becoming a bit of a, oh, he's leaving again.
Right.
But I don't see it happening. This is a mess. This is an absolute mess. This is not happening. Heard it too many times before. No.
One of the places he's been linked to PSG. All right, Riyad Mahrez, I know you've said you would like to see him at Liverpool. What about at Manchester United? How do you rate that rumor?
Yeah, listen, Mahrez is a quality player. I said I'd like to see him at Liverpool if they got rid of Coutinho, or sorry, if they sold Coutinho. So for Man United, I think this would give them something a little different going forward.
Is he a Mourinho guy?
Listen,
That would be the question for me.
Leicester won the Premier League, and when Leicester won the Premier League, they did have quality like him and Vardy, but they all chipped in with the defensive side as well, including this guy. So the answer to that question is yes, he would be a Mourinho player, not just on the defensive side, but absolute quality going forward. This would be a hit for Manchester United if indeed it happened.
All right, let's stay with Manchester United. Henrik Mkhitaryan, it seems like he's just never really gotten off the ground at Old Trafford.
Yeah, and I don't think you can lay the blame at his door entirely either. You know, Mourinho, when Mkhitaryan came to Manchester United, he was brought from Dortmund off the back of playing off the centre forward. He has played a couple of games there. That's not enough. He should have had more time in that position. Clearly Mourinho didn't fancy him and he's pushed him wide. Now, he has just struggled big time from there. The only way that Mkhitaryan resurrects his career is to leave Manchester United. So this has to be a hit. I think there are plenty of suitors for him. He is a great player, just hasn't been able to show it at Manchester United. I think this absolutely is a hit.
All right, folks, there you have it. He's Stevie Nicol. I'm Sebastian Salazar. Those are the transfer rumors, and they've been rated.
Big story is Van Dijk, isn't it?
Listen, the opposition tonight didn't give him too many problems, to be honest. But we saw what he can do in the opposition penalty box with a goal. He actually should have scored earlier from a similar situation. But fantastic debut, as I said, all downhill from.
So is it just not scoring? Because I tell you what, when we sit here and you castigate one of the best, most successful defenders in European, if not world football,
correct.
Sergio Ramos, you say, look, we don't judge him on scoring goals, and we judge him on his defending. Well, so where's the difference here?
Was it a fault for the goal?
It didn't have anything to do. No, he wasn't at fault for the goal. The goal shouldn't have been allowed. Balassi fouls Matip on the break back. He basically didn't have an awful lot to do defensively. So, what do you want me to say?
But what I would say is that, okay, you have Virgil van Dijk, right? He's supposed to be a solution to your problems. And it still was 1-0, and Liverpool were controlling the game, and somehow they allow a team like Everton that didn't do much in the match, they allow them back into the game. So the issues are still there. This is one important piece, but it doesn't solve all the issues for Liverpool defensively. They're still going to allow chances. They're still going to allow teams back in games, and we saw that today.
Arsene Wenger charged today by the English FA and will miss 3 matches plus a fine of £40,000 for his actions after the West Brom game, apparently going into the referee's office to confront Mike Riley. Right punishment?
Yeah. I mean, the 40,000 is neither here nor there to a manager on millions, but 3 games on the side or in the stand is certainly punishment enough. Well, I mean, it's punishment enough. He shouldn't be doing it.
Gab Marcotti is still with us. Gab, the interesting thing about this, I thought, was the fact that obviously this doesn't take into consideration what happened a couple of days ago after he kind of alluded to the fact there's some sort of conspiracy against Arsenal after the match against Chelsea. Could he be punished further?
Potentially, yes. I mean, I think they've evaluated the situation, and we may hear something from this on Monday. It's remarkable that we're talking about this, but this sort of behavior, you know, as well as obviously the Conte Mourinho stuff, becoming pervasive at the higher end of the Premier League this year.
Is it getting worse, Stevie, or is it just the fact that it's Christmas and it just seems to be what's been grabbing the headlines?
I think Wenger's
It's Christmas and everybody's so happy.
Yeah, but everyone fights at Christmas. Everyone fights every Christmas.
What goes on in Christmas in your house?
Oh, everyone's house have their issues.
No, we don't. I mean, not my house. No, I think Wenger's getting worse, and there's no question. I would be shocked if he doesn't get banned here.
Yeah, because what he called the penalty farcical.
Yeah, and then he's alluding to a conspiracy. Referees are very touchy on this sort of thing because basically it's questioning them.
Yeah,
it's questioning.
But they're right to be touchy about it, aren't they?
Well, absolutely, and that's why I think he's going to get banned.
But to think, from Arsene Wenger's perspective, that referees get together and say, "Hey guys, this is what we're going to do. Look, when we're playing, when you're doing a game, an Arsenal game, and there's a call to be made, and it can go against Arsenal, you make sure it goes against Arsenal. That's what we're going to do. Come on now."
Why do they speak in such a high voice?
Well, because see, this is the referees getting together.
He's just not that good at deflecting, is he?
Is that what he's trying to do?
Of course he is. He's trying to take the pressure off himself, the players, the club. He's trying to deflect. He's just not very good at it.
It may just be the realization that it's getting away from him. That it's now maybe settling into like, you know what, I'm losing it. Right. I'm losing the team, I'm losing games, I'm losing points, I'm losing the league, nothing's working, this is not the way it's supposed to end for me, and now you start acting this way.
Do the players listen to any of this?
No, no.
Do they pay any attention to the fact that, he's alluding to the conspiracy theory? We talk about how you give a player an excuse, they'll take it.
Not really, I don't think so. I think this congested fixture schedule, that's always the case in England, and we always talk about it, it's not only getting to the players, it's getting to the managers as well, because you're throwing all these games together, they're coming thick and fast, so they're seeing these mistakes, they're fresh in their memory. Well, some of them are not mistakes, but they're seeing what they perceive as something wrong against their team. Then within a couple of days, they're seeing something else, and there's no break away from it. Hell, there was even a story today in an English paper, one of the referees mapping out how far he travelled and all of the Christmas period to cover games and saying, how can you expect him to referee the game properly when he's done over 1,000 miles? I mean, they're all at it. Everybody's making an excuse here.
How does that affect their refereeing? Travelling?
Well, saying the referee, travelling tires him out. Oh. When he can't keep up with play. I mean, it's just... honestly.
You're feeding into the conspiracy here.
There's a map of where the referee had gone, all the different grounds and miles.
Mountains.
Yeah, 1,000. The game's gone mad. Then, of course, as Gav mentioned, you've got all the stuff going on with Chelsea and Man United. I mean, it's just crackers.
Emre Can moving from Liverpool to Juventus is maybe, Stevie, one of the worst-kept secrets in global football. Sky Sport Italia confirming that apparently he's already been convinced by Juve for a deal come next summer when he will be a free agent. He started 15 of Liverpool's 22 games so far this season. How much do you think they'll miss him come next season?
I think they'll definitely miss him. Fortunately for Liverpool, they have Keita coming in, who will go straight into the middle of the park for Can. And I think that plays into why Chan's leaving. He probably sees the writing on the wall. For Liverpool as a squad, I think it's a huge blow. Because for me, Can, ever since he came under Brendan Rodgers, has steadily got better and better. And I think he goes to Juventus and Sami Khedira steps off the field and Can steps straight in. I think he's as good a defensive midfielder as there is around right now.
You mentioned he arrived at Liverpool when Brendan Rodgers was in charge. Jurgen Klopp maybe looking to do something different. How different are Keita and Can if we're comparing them as kind of one goes, here comes the other?
Keita has far more pace. Keita's far more likely to put the ball in the back of the net. But he also can get around defensively and cover holes. So for me, no question, Keita starts above Can, but I don't think we should use that against Can. For me, this is unfortunate for Liverpool, but the writing was on the wall. You know, as soon as he decided not to sign a new contract, then everybody pretty much knew what the outcome was going to be.
Juventus certainly loves a free transfer. This guy's just 23 years old. Are we looking at Juve's starting center midfielder for the next, I don't know, 4 or 5, maybe 6 years?
Absolutely, I think so. I think he's reached a level of consistency now where he has to be playing. Again, that's probably why he's leaving, because he sees his appearance is going to dwindle next season. But Juventus, for me, this is a fantastic deal for them. The timing's perfect. Khedira's coming to the end of his career. Can will slot straight in and do exactly the same job that Khedira's been doing.
when we talk about the January window, there's always this kind of awkward potential for guys to be half in one place and half in another. You could see that happening over the second half of the season, half at Liverpool. Maybe his mind's already starting to think about Juventus. From the Liverpool perspective, does that bother you a little bit?
Not at all, no.
You don't worry about that?
No, not at all.
Players, that's not a thing that can change a player's output?
If I'm going to put myself in Emre Can's position, the only thing I want to do for the next 6 months is play well to make sure I get a game when I go to Juventus. So, no, Emre Can's been a fantastic professional. He's been really consistent. I don't see that changing. No, I don't see this affecting him one iota.
Well, it won't go down until the summer, but Emre Can to Juventus looks very much like a done deal. Ross Barkley to Chelsea is a done deal. Stevie, let's start with the price. £15 million for a guy that's 24 years old with all the talent that he has shown throughout his career so far. I know there's been injuries, and I know that there's only a year left on the deal, but that seems like nothing in today's world.
No, it's absolutely nothing for a guy who has got so much potential, who has shown he has great ability and can produce something from nothing. Unfortunately, at Everton, he hasn't done it consistently. So for Chelsea, this is an absolute no-brainer. You know, they're involved in Champions League. They want to do better in the Premier League. You've got the FA Cup coming up. So, you know, to have a guy in your squad who you can bring on the field who's capable of turning a game for 15 million, no-brainer.
I wonder what his role will be with Chelsea. What do you see it as?
No question, coming off the bench. And then really after that, you're talking about a guy who, for me, could play in any of the forward positions, other than centre forward. You know, no question he can play in the middle. That's where he has tried to solidify himself. But he could play in one of the wider positions as well if asked.
Let's focus on the Barkley side of this, because obviously the World Cup's coming up. He was on the England team in 2014. It's probably a long shot here for 2018. This move should help towards that end. But is it realistic for Barkley to be thinking World Cup right now?
If Barkley's thinking about the World Cup, then he needs to get a shake. His priority has to be getting a game of football. You know, he hasn't played
all season.
Whether it's because of injury or whether Everton just weren't going to play him, his only thought should be getting on the field. Forget the World Cup or any of that nonsense. Get a game of football under your belt. That's what he should be concentrating on.
Do you think Chelsea is the best place to do that? Because reports were that Spurs were interested as well. Between those two teams, is Chelsea the better bet for Barkley getting minutes?
I think a football player will always go to the better side. I think Chelsea are the better side. And I think he may get more of an opportunity at Chelsea. I think Pochettino, for me, likes to keep things consistent. And that would mean that he wouldn't get that much time. I think he's got an opportunity at Chelsea to get game time.
There it is. Ross Barkley, Everton to Chelsea, £15 million. PSG opens 2018 with a 9-point lead atop the French league, and yet not all is well in Paris. For more, we call on our PSG correspondent, Jonathan Johnson. Jonathan, what in the world is going on with Edinson Cavani and Javier Pastore? Because the duo have seemed to found themselves in hot water yet again with the club.
Yeah, absolutely. The problem for Cavani and Pastore with PSG at this moment in time is that both players were late back for training, the resumption of training after the winter break. The original plan for PSG was for all of the squad to get back into training on Tuesday. They agreed while they were in Doha, Qatar, to extend that by 1 day so that everybody would have to be back on Wednesday. However, Edinson Cavani and Javier Pastore in time to get back to training with the rest of their teammates. Cavani is now back in Paris, as far as I understand. Pastore is not. The reasons for why both of the players were unable to make it back to Paris for Wednesday are unclear for the moment. However, you'd have to imagine that it was something pretty serious for both of them to decide that they weren't going to be able to be back in time when they'd been given club orders, plus given an extra day like the rest of their teammates in order to spend time with their family over the holidays. So the issue for PSG, like I've mentioned in an article that I wrote on the website before, is that PSG now have two players who have not shown up on time after they've been given some time off on holiday.
Jonathan, anytime something like this happens, people will point at the manager, fair or not. Is this more evidence that Unai Emery is having issues dealing with these big players and big egos?
I don't think it's so much a reflection on Emery at the moment. We'll have to wait and see exactly what comes to light, the reasons for the players being laid back. But also, I think we have to bear in mind here that if there is to be action taken, which at the moment I'm led to believe will be the case, because at the end of the day, the two players informed PSG on the Wednesday, so the day that they were expected back in training, that they wouldn't be there. This matter will actually be handled by the sporting director, Antero Enrique, and not Unai Emery. I'm sure Emery will be given his moment to speak with both players. We'll have to see what Enrique and Emery both decide together should be a suitable and agreeable punishment for the pair without impacting the team too much on the pitch. However, until those reasons for Cavani and Pastore not being back in Paris on time are clear, it's very difficult to say what sort of action PSG are going to take at this moment in time. And until those reasons are known, Emery is not really going to have so much of a say. So it's difficult to really assess his role in all of this and what it will say about him as a coach until we have all the facts, so to speak.
Jonathan, if we can here, let's focus in specifically on Javier Pastore. He was kind of the first signing of this new era for PSG, and yet it seems like the writing is on the wall when it comes to his future at the club. How long do you think he'll be at PSG?
Very difficult to say at this moment in time, because it wouldn't be a huge surprise if he's gone by the end of the month. It also wouldn't be a huge surprise if he stays until the end of the season and then maybe moves on next summer. However, I don't expect Javier Pastore to be a PSG player going into next season. I think that his time at the club is up. A phenomenally talented player on his day, very gifted, capable of some sublime things on the football pitch, but his problem has been fitness and consistency over the years, and ultimately he doesn't have a place in this PSG project on the long term because he is just unreliable for any coach. It doesn't matter whether Unai Emery is in charge or somebody else. At the end of the day, no coach is going to be able to fix the physical problems that Pastore has, and then the mental problems that come after that, because he's so stop and start. He'll have a good match, and then he'll maybe string one or two along together after that, and then he'll get injured again. It's a repetitive circle, and it's something that PSG have really taken too long to deal with and make a firm decision about. And I think now is the time that PSG make the decision that they can no longer move forward with Javier Pastore, because they simply cannot rely on him.
Stevie, there's an article on our website right now. Perhaps the people watching this video have read it. The first line of that article I want to read to you. The most emotionally intense matches in English football have been FA Cup games between Liverpool and Everton. That's from the article's author, Tony Evans. Is he right?
I'm not arguing with that.
Why?
Well, I was involved in them. I know exactly what he's talking about. Sometimes things that happen off the field become more important than what happens on it. And two of those games that Tony talks about really do speak for that. One was a year after Heysel, when Juventus fans lost their life. And of course, one was, 6 weeks after the Hillsborough tragedy. So, no, I don't think there's ever been any FA Cup games that have carried as much importance as those two in particular.
Let's look at the FA Cup kind of as a whole. There's a saying, the magic of the cup. And then a lot of people will tell you the magic of the cup has disappeared. Do you believe it's disappeared? Is the FA Cup less relevant today than it was when you played?
I think the question should be, is it relevant?
At all?
I mean, when you've got teams, the so-called elite teams, putting out a reserve side up until, the semi-final, what does that tell you about the tournament? What does that tell you about how important that tournament is to those clubs? And the fact is, until you get to the semi-final, it's not important whatsoever.
How did we get to this place? How did the FA Cup lose its value?
The Champions League. You know, the fact that you can finish fourth in the top tier of English football, and that is more important than winning the FA Cup. It's why the FA Cup is irrelevant. It's all about money. Unfortunately, the money side of it has taken over the glory, if you wish. And I don't see it changing anytime soon.
The Premier League sides join in the third round. There are no non-league clubs in this third round. First time that's happened in, I think, like 70 years. That certainly hurt some of the hope for the magic, right?
Yeah, but
Those are the stories that, as a neutral, I fall in love with.
But you're still going to have lower league teams who are capable of taking on some of the big boys, if indeed they do, and when they do play the reserve side. So there will still be some of that magic for the lower league sides, but for the Premier League sides, for the Premier League, for the supporters of the Premier League teams, you know, why are you going to go and watch the reserve team play?
It's a good question. It's a jam-packed FA Cup slate this weekend. Here's hoping it produces at least a little magic.